On Bismarck's wedding day, his 10-year-old stepdaughter Mina whispers a strange warning. "Please don't marry my mother. You'll regret it." Dismissing her fears, Bismarck steps into married life, only to discover that his new wife Cynthia may not be the gentle, loving woman she pretends to be. Would Cynthia forgive her daughter for disgracing her, or she would abandon her forever? Watch the full video to discover. If this is your first time here on our channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our amazing stories. Now, let's jump into the full story. Bismarck was a kind man who was excited to get married. He was 38 years old and worked as a local insurance agent. On his wedding day, he stood at the front of a small church. The guests were sitting quietly on the wooden pews, waiting for the ceremony to begin. Bismarck's heart thumped with both nervousness and happiness, because he was about to marry Cynthia, a 35-year-old woman he had fallen in love with. Suddenly, he felt a soft tug on his suit jacket. He looked down and saw Mina, Cynthia's 10-year-old daughter. Mina had big, worried eyes. She whispered in a shaky voice, "Please don't marry my mother. You will regret it." Bismarck was shocked. He did not expect such words from a little girl on what was supposed to be a happy day. He felt a knot in his stomach. Should he ask her more? Should he stop the wedding and find out what she meant? But the music started to play, and Cynthia appeared at the end of the aisle in a beautiful white dress. The guests stood up and turned to watch her walk toward Bismarck. Feeling confused and not wanting to create a scene, Bismarck whispered back to Mina, "Don't say that. We can talk later." He thought Mina might just be scared of having a new father. He believed maybe she felt left out or worried she would lose her mother's attention, so he tried to push aside her warning. The ceremony went on as planned. Cynthia looked stunning and smiled brightly at Bismarck. The priest asked them to exchange vows, and Bismarck spoke of his love for Cynthia. He promised to take care of her and Mina. He was sure everything would be okay. In the back of his mind, though, he couldn't forget Mina's trembling voice. He thought, maybe she's just a nervous child, yet her words stayed with him all day. "Please don't marry my mother. You will regret it." He had no idea how true those words might turn out to be. After the wedding, Bismarck and Cynthia held a small party in the church hall. Friends and family congratulated them, sharing warm hugs and happy smiles. Bismarck noticed that Mina sat in a corner, eating a slice of cake slowly. She did not run around or play with the other children. She looked lonely and worried. Later that evening, Bismarck drove Cynthia and Mina home to the cozy house they would now share. It was a modest place with 2 bedrooms, a living room, and a small backyard where Mina could play. Bismarck had decorated a new room just for her, painting the walls a soft pink and adding some of her favorite toys and books. Cynthia still had on her wedding dress when they walked through the door. She laughed as she kicked off her heels, feeling relieved that the excitement was over. She gave Mina a quick hug and told her to get ready for bed. Mina obeyed, but shot Bismarck a sad look before disappearing into her new bedroom. Bismarck tried to shake off the uneasy feeling growing in his chest. He told himself that it was normal for children to feel strange about a new stepfather. She just needs time, he thought. Soon we'll be a happy family. Over the next few days, Bismarck took Mina to the park, hoping she would warm up to him. She enjoyed the swings and sometimes smiled, but she never acted truly comfortable around him. She kept glancing over her shoulder as if worried her mother might be watching. Cynthia, on the other hand, showered Bismarck with affection. She cooked special dinners and gave him sweet compliments. She seemed like the perfect wife, caring and thoughtful. Still, whenever Bismarck brought up Mina, Cynthia would sigh or roll her eyes, saying, "Mina can be moody. Don't worry about it." Bismarck wanted to trust Cynthia's words. He wanted to believe Mina would come around. But at night, as he lay in bed, he remembered the fear in the girl's eyes on the wedding day. Something felt off, and a tiny part of him began to wonder if Mina was right. A few weeks later, Bismarck and Cynthia went on a short honeymoon trip to a nearby beach town. Mina stayed with a friendly neighbor. The trip was supposed to be romantic and peaceful. They walked on the sand, watched the sunset, and enjoyed quiet dinners by the water. Bismarck felt lucky to have such a fun and charming wife. Cynthia seemed easy to talk to and eager to please. However, Bismarck noticed a few strange things. Once, when he returned to the hotel room earlier than planned, he found Cynthia on the phone. She quickly hung up when she saw him, looking nervous. When he asked who she was talking to, she just laughed and said, "It's nobody important." Bismarck tried not to worry. Maybe it was just a private conversation with a friend. After the honeymoon, they went back home. Bismarck was excited to see Mina and to start building a proper family life, but something felt different in the house. It was a little messier than usual, and there was a sense of tension in the air. One day, Bismarck noticed that an expensive pen he kept in his study was missing. He thought maybe he misplaced it. Another time, he saw that a fancy watch he owned was not on the dresser where he had left it. He looked around, but couldn't find it anywhere. He asked Cynthia if she had seen it, and she shrugged, saying he was probably just forgetful. Mina, meanwhile, seemed quieter each day. She would do her homework, eat dinner, and then go to her room. Whenever Bismarck asked about her day, she gave short answers. He tried to get Cynthia to talk to her, but Cynthia waved it off. "She's just sulking," she said. Bismarck could not shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong. He remembered Mina's strange warning on the wedding day. He also remembered catching Cynthia on that secretive phone call. Were these events connected? He hoped he was just overthinking things, yet his heart told him to stay alert. Sometimes a child's warning can carry a big truth. One rainy afternoon, Bismarck came home from work earlier than usual. He stepped inside, shaking off his wet umbrella, and heard raised voices coming from the living room. Carefully, he peeked around the corner to see Cynthia scolding Mina. "You'd better keep your mouth shut," Cynthia hissed. "Don't tell him anything you saw. Do you understand?" Mina stood there with tears in her eyes, trembling. Bismarck quickly entered the room. "What's going on?" he asked, his heart pounding. Cynthia turned around with a fake smile and said, "Oh, nothing, honey. Mina just broke a vase and I was telling her to be more careful." Mina looked down, saying nothing. That night, Bismarck found Mina sitting by herself on the back steps. She was staring at the dark sky, trying not to cry. He gently sat next to her, asking, "Are you okay? You can tell me anything. I'm here to help." For a moment, Mina stayed silent. Then she whispered, "She told me not to talk about what she does at her store." Bismarck's brow furrowed. "What does she do at her store?" he asked. Mina hesitated, but finally said, "She takes things that don't belong to her. She puts them in her bag and leaves without paying. When someone noticed, she blamed me." Stunned, Bismarck felt his chest tighten. Could his wife really be stealing from her own workplace and trying to blame a child? It seemed unthinkable, but the fear in Mina's eyes was real. He promised her he would handle it carefully. Later that night, when he tried to talk to Cynthia, she became angry and defensive. She denied everything, saying Mina was making up stories for attention. Cynthia insisted, "She's a kid. Kids lie all the time." Bismarck wanted to believe his wife, but he couldn't ignore what he had seen. That night, he decided to keep an eye on things. Maybe Mina was just imagining things, or maybe Cynthia was hiding a problem. Bismarck's mind spun with worry. He remembered Mina's wedding day words again. What if her warning was more serious than he realized? A few days later, Bismarck decided to stop by the boutique where Cynthia worked. He told her he might visit sometime, but he didn't say exactly when. He arrived in the early afternoon, carrying a small bag with lunch as a friendly surprise. First, everything looked normal. Cynthia was helping a customer choose a scarf. The store was neat with colorful clothes hanging on racks. Bismarck waited quietly near the entrance. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw Cynthia slip something small into her purse. It looked like a tube of lipstick. She glanced around to see if anyone was watching, and then returned to the customer with a bright smile. Bismarck's heart skipped a beat. He couldn't believe what he had just seen. Had his wife really stolen from the store? He felt numb. After the customer left, he approached Cynthia and handed her the bag of lunch. She acted surprised to see him, but her cheeks looked flushed. as if she had been caught doing something wrong. On the drive home, Bismarck tried to stay calm. He thought carefully about how to talk to her. When they arrived, he asked her about the lipstick. She immediately became angry, saying, "Why were you spying on me? Don't you trust your own wife?" She denied taking anything and insisted he misunderstood. Then she stormed out of the room, leaving Bismarck with more questions than answers. Over dinner, there was silence. Mina watched them both with worried eyes. She seemed to sense the tension. Bismarck felt torn. He wanted to believe that Cynthia was not a thief. He wanted to keep his family happy, but what he saw at the store was impossible to ignore. That night, as he lay in bed, he remembered Mina's words again. Maybe Mina was right all along. Maybe Cynthia had a habit of stealing and blaming others. He felt a wave of guilt for not believing Mina sooner. Now he feared that things would only get worse. In the following days, the tension in the house grew stronger. Cynthia became more secretive and easily annoyed. She locked herself in the bedroom for long periods, saying she needed privacy. She also started accusing Bismarck of being controlling whenever he asked simple questions, like, "Where did you go today?" or "Did you see my watch anywhere?" Mina, on the other hand, became even quieter. She spent most of her free time in her room, doing homework or reading. When Bismarck tried to talk to her about school or her friends, she gave short answers. He noticed that sometimes she looked at him with sadness, as if she felt sorry for him. One evening, Bismarck was alone in the living room, paying bills and checking his bank account. He saw some odd withdrawals, small amounts of money taken out at times when he wasn't using his card. He wondered if Cynthia had used it without telling him. That same night, he found a drawer opened where he kept his mother's old necklace. The necklace was missing. He asked Cynthia about the necklace, and she snapped, "Stop accusing me of everything that goes missing. You probably lost it." When Bismarck persisted, she began shouting insults. This behavior was very different from the sweet, charming woman he had fallen in love with. Later, Mina approached Bismarck timidly. She said, "I saw Mom put something shiny in her purse. It looked like a necklace." "I'm sorry." Bismarck felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He recalled the wedding day when Mina had warned him not to marry Cynthia. Why did he ignore that warning? Now it seemed that everything Mina said was true. Cynthia's angry outbursts and strange behavior frightened Bismarck. He worried about Mina's safety. He also felt ashamed for choosing to doubt Mina's words for so long. He tried to talk calmly with Cynthia, suggesting they see a counselor or a therapist, but she refused. "I'm not crazy," she yelled. "I don't need any help." Bismarck looked at Mina, realizing the child he promised to protect was living in fear every single day. Feeling desperate, Bismarck called an old friend, Joseph, who lived in the same town. He needed someone to talk to about everything that was happening. Joseph listened carefully as Bismarck explained how valuables were disappearing. Cynthia was acting strangely, and Mina seemed afraid. Joseph said, "It sounds like you're in a difficult situation. Have you tried speaking with Cynthia about getting help for her behavior?" Bismarck admitted that he tried, but Cynthia refused. Joseph then suggested, "Maybe you can look into her past, find out if there's a pattern." That idea stuck in Bismarck's mind. He began searching online for any trace of Cynthia's earlier life. He even found one of her old classmates on social media. After sending a polite message, the classmate replied with concern. She said Cynthia had been caught shoplifting in high school and often blamed her friends. She also had a habit of moving away whenever people got suspicious. Bismarck felt his heart sink. He had hoped this was just a small problem, but it seemed more serious. He wondered if anyone else in Cynthia's family knew about this. He tried to call Cynthia's mother, but she was distant and unhelpful, insisting that Cynthia was just misunderstood. At home, the situation felt heavy. Cynthia continued to act sweet and cheerful in front of neighbors or guests, but behind closed doors, she scolded Mina for the smallest things. One evening, Bismarck saw bruises on Mina's arm and confronted Cynthia, who claimed Mina fell while